I think it's key as you're thinking through just all that you're trying to accomplish as an organization and where you are with your employee culture to really recognize where you have some great opportunities to leverage strength. And one of the things that I think that you have that likely is within your organization to leverage a strength in is your frontline and your middle management leaders. No matter where I walk in, it seems like that a lot of the different things that I learn as I meet with different groups from very, very small organizations to larger, more mid-sized organizations is that the relationship for employees with their frontline or their immediate supervisor is likely really strong. And so it's great, right? Because the adage says you don't leave an organization, you leave your supervisor. So I think in those organizations that I'm meeting with, I'm seeing a lot of positivity, and it's not necessarily 110% across the groups, but on the whole, there's a high percentage of that being really strong. Often we find that there's a disconnect between maybe the upper level leadership and some of the different connection points on communication, talking about change, understanding my contribution, feeling like that I feel good and I trust the direction that they're headed. So there's a breakdown as we think about moving up through leadership. I do think a lot of that is because often we're communicating in different ways. And we don't typically help different leaders across the organization communicate and translate things from the more senior strategic vision down to kind of the day to day, how do we move this task forward? And so, really thinking about how do I help and understand, how do I help my frontline leaders, and how do I understand what my frontline leaders are hearing is key. I talk a lot about feedback loops and how do we orchestrate consistent feedback loops where people actually, over time, build more and more trust in those feedback loops so they are more and more honest. Feedback loops are important to gain feedback, but also to solicit a solution based environment. So, not people just coming to share their frustrations, but really talking about, hey, I think this would help. I think this is the number one change that would make a difference on that. And so, frontline leaders are often a really great group within your organization. If you have three of them, if you have 300 of them, to get together and really understand because they are often an aha for you to think through, well, how did we get from this vision to what's going on at the front line? I usually talk about it as a complicated game of telephone. And so trying to understand how to translate and make it make sense through all of the different communication points that we have to those individuals is really key. Now, if you're a super small organization, you might think, I don't have to worry about that, right? We're talking all the time. I, as the CEO, are sitting down with my team. I would argue that you're speaking a very different language because the tasks that you have to do every day are very different than the tasks of those that have more of an individual contributor or a frontline or a task based role. And so thinking about getting feedback from folks about how they are understanding what you're communicating, even if it's directly from you, and how you could be more effective in that is really key and critical. And so I think that recognizing where your opportunities are and really helping to foster a sense of growth and elevation of these groups about the importance of their feedback and their ideas is going to be key for building your employee culture in an intentional way.